Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Ben Flynn. I'm the CEO of the Geelong Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you all to our second webinar in our series. This week, we're covering off adapting for hospitality, and we've got some great guests with us, starting with Gillian Costa from the Pier. Welcome, Gillian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We've got Ty Simmons, owner of Driftwood Café and president of the Ocean Grove Traders Association. Welcome, Ty.
Hey guys, how you going?
We've got Cam O'Keefe from Westend, formerly Eureka Hotel.
Thanks, Ben. Good to be here.
We've got Deb Nash from Truffleduck. Welcome, Deb.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Ben.
Mark Butcher from Pier and Scoobs out in North Geelong. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, Benny. Hi, guys.
Lyndsay Sharp from the Sharp Group, who own the Cider House, Lura Park, Jack Rabbit and the Driving Range in Curlewis. How are you, Lyndsay?
Good, thanks, Ben. Thanks.
So it's been a tough couple of weeks, I'm sure, for everybody across all industries, but no doubt there's a lot of people joining us today who are from across the hospitality industry and working to deal with all the challenges they're facing. So today is a really important opportunity for you guys as leaders in the industry to talk about your experiences. And it won't be all beer and skittles, we've discussed that, but certainly there's some good green shoots coming out and the way people are thinking and focusing on strategising and making sure we're here for the long haul, certainly after the virus. So Gillian, so with you up first, can you tell us how it's been for you in the last couple of weeks at the Pier?
It's gone very fast, and I'd have to say when all this first come about, we're thinking, oh, we'll wait and see what it looks like, and then it became very obvious you can't wait, you've got to act. And I struggled to write any policy or anything because it was changing faster than I could actually put a plan together. So talk about a very fluid couple of weeks. It was tough. Talking to the staff was tough because you're aware of all the lives that are being put on hold, and you know everybody relies on their income. They have their plans. We know what we're doing, and I can't in good conscience promise that we're going to get back as we were. In fact, I don't think we'll be as we were. Hopefully we'll be stronger and we'll be better. Hopefully we'll still be here. Like, the future is uncertain for everybody, and that, I think, that was a tough chat that we had to have. The staff have been amazing. For the vast majority, they're all very positive. They understand this is bigger than us, and everyone's sort of very focused on, well, what can we do? What do we need to do? And making the most of the situation we're in.
Mm-hmm. And Ty down in Ocean Grove, and you represent the Ocean Grove Traders as well as your own business. How's the last 2 weeks been for you?
Yeah, look. As just said, it has been a bit of a whirlwind, and we're every day things are changing, and that's tough. You can't plan for something that you're uncertain of. But we've been slowly, reducing things and gearing up for a close down. Really, if we continue doing takeaway food during the time, then fantastic. But we, particularly in Ocean Grove, are a lot of small businesses, all independently owned. The whole sort of feeling in the street is trying to be positive, but yeah, there's this shutdown coming and that's looming over our heads. And for those who work for themselves, they're worried about paying rent, and that's sort of their biggest outgoing. We've got quite a few staff, and that's our biggest concern. Rent's way further down on my list, and I expect the government will make an announcement about that in the coming days, but. Yeah, it's just about the staff. For us, it's about keeping those people, the core team. We've got 7 or 8 full-timers that I really need to make sure I can give them hours ongoing as far as I can. If they shut us down completely, then we'll have to go to another plan. But for the moment, they're all still employed. They're still getting their salaries, and we're keeping them busy. We've just completely changed the business model. We're not the same place we were a week ago. So. And
staffing seems to be a consistent message or challenge, but Cam, tell us at Westend how you've been helping staff over the last week or two.
Yeah, sure. So Vast majority of our employees are casual. Let's say 2/3 are casual and 1/3 full-time. So, and a lot of these casuals are either uni students or younger people. So the business has been able to offer them resources like using a computer, using a printer, using the telephone if they need to, just basically helping them in any way they can, in any way we can, rather than just a financial offering for them. We also looked at perishables in our cool room, in our kitchen fridge that we knew, well, they're going to go off the next week or 2 weeks. How can we get them to some of these younger employees that are struggling with buying groceries due to the lack of hours?
And Lyndsay, across your venues, are you finding staff are pretty accepting of the situation and pretty appreciative of all your efforts?
It's been, it's been a devastating week. We've stood down around about 200 great people, and the true colours have just have shone through, like from the start, from the onset, where it really started to sort of gain traction and turn into the juggernaut that it is. Where, as Jill said, things were, parameters were changing almost by the hour. It felt like everyone rose to the occasion. So, we were rolling out our coronavirus policy as ScoMo was on the screen with the red band at the bottom going, hospitality now 100. So 2 days later, it was suddenly the 4 square metre rule. Everyone just rolled it out. They were incredible. And yes, last week we have been trying to inform and support them as much as possible, encourage them to register for the economic support package, been showing links, trying to make it as clear and provide clarity for them as information comes to light about where they can get jobs. Even Centrelink were looking for people to help process the packages. So, it's been, we're doing what we can, we still are, and everyone was accepting and have been, truly amazing. But it's devastating to be in that situation, to, know that this is impacting on so many lives.
And Deb, Nash from Truffleduck, I know you've still got a lot of staff preparing meals. Tell us how that's going. And we've got a question from Charles that I'll direct at you as well, Deb. Do we have any idea whether the government's going to shut down the takeaway food business, and which stage do we think that will be?
Ben, that's really funny, because that's probably the question that's where, yes, it's been a tough 10 days from the minute that first, what are we doing with weddings, that consumed us for about the first, I don't know, up until last weekend. People still thought they were going to do it. So as Lyndsay said, we got down to, we could do 40 at one point, and a wedding was going to go from 70. Who will we knock off the list so that we can still get married? So it wouldn't come as any surprise to anyone who knows me, I'm pretty emotional. So I took it all on pretty personally. I then, of course, we said about, right, we asked the staff, what did they want to do? How did they feel? Obviously, we're a pretty big family down here, the Truffleduck family. So we obviously talked to the full-timers. Are you comfortable to continue? How did they feel about it? We would protect them, in every way, shape we could, all the policies in place. So when that happened, we went full bore into our take-home meals, which is keeping 5 of them full-time at the moment. But I wish I had the crystal ball, because we're set ready to go with lots of innovations. But we can go ahead and do all of this and find out, one of our big things would be, we're well set up to do things like date nights and things like that. We can do all of that sort of thing. But if the government shut us down, there's no point doing it. So, Charles, I wish I knew. And if you knew something, my gut feeling, and I don't know what everyone else thinks, my gut feeling is I don't believe we will be considered essential for much longer in terms of take-home meals. That's my, I don't know, Ty, what do you think?
Look, join in?
I think looking at what's happened in other places, they have kept the take-home element alive. So whether it's you've got to deliver it to them, or people are still allowed to come out and get it, they're allowed to leave their homes to go and do the shopping. They could swing past and get some ready meals on the way back home. If we can do it without sort of too much interaction, then I think they may keep it going, because it's keeping people employed. So it's not just about keeping people fed; it's about keeping people employed, particularly in a sector that has been hit so hard. I think if they'll try as long as possible, hopefully. But yeah, we've all got sitting on stock. We've all got plans for we've got to order things in advance. We've got to make things ahead of time. And if all of a sudden we get shut down with 24 hours notice, then there's not much freezer space left.
And Mark Big Butcher from Pier and Scoobs, how have you found your clients' approach to cancellations and throughout your business?
And look, for our business is mainly, walk in, sit down. That's most of our business and has been for the last 3.5 years. And I think now when you look at it, it's take home. We've just got to readjust. We build a new model, as Ty said before. We've all had to take it on. As Deb said, you've always got these plans in place to come up with something else. We do a lot of wedding cakes, birthday cakes, that sort of stuff. So anyone that's cancelled, then a lot of them have just said, look, we will get married, keep the deposits and, I'll rebook it in. So we've just got the list there. And look, it will happen. And our customer base and our following has been really good to us. We're really, really lucky there. And yeah, look, we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I'm probably a little bit more like Ty. I think maybe they'll leave us to the fourth one when they just close everything. I think if we can have minimal contact as possible, which we do, if you can pay online, you just pick it up, give us your name, pick it up, or we can drop it off, after hours. I think that's what we need to do, and I think that's what we've got to keep doing. If you can go out, you're right, if you can go out and shop, you can go out and pick up a meal too.
Yeah. Cam from West End. Cam, how have you found dealing with some of your suppliers in the financial industry, such as banks and insurance companies and landlords?
So far, everyone's been fairly understanding. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty out there that, they're in similar positions with their own suppliers, say. But so far, so good. I mean, it's actually one of the most surprising things out of all this, how understanding the banks and our landlord and so forth have been around this. So whether that will change over the coming few weeks, whether they start to feel the pinch a bit more, we'll wait and see. But I'm not sure if everyone else would agree with that statement, but suppliers and so forth have been quite understanding. A lot of our suppliers, direct suppliers, I guess, they've got a retail arm to their business as well, so the butcher or the seafood or so forth. So they've kind of got a retail arm, not just a wholesale arm to their business. So they're probably not feeling it just yet, as maybe some other suppliers.
So perhaps to the group, is it possible to ask your landlord for a rent-free period and ask your bank for a debt holiday?
Already have done all that, Ben. That was probably one of the first things I did at the beginning was, okay, when you're working out your interim strategy, it was right, okay, how does that? So we had good conversations with our bank manager, and so then gives you the confidence that, okay, yes, let's move to the next day, let's move to the next day. Our accountant's been fantastic. So that's been one of the really positive things, I have to say, out of all of this. I felt very supported.
We're the same. Our landlord's been fantastic. They straight away just said, look, we'll give you a 50% reduction in rent straight away, and then we'll see how it goes from there. So they've been really good.
And will you need to pay that through increased rent down the track, do you think, Mark?
I'm hoping not, but who knows what the world will bring? We don't know. And look, that's something you look at down the track too,
Yeah. And in terms of stimulus packages, reductions in or refunds in PAYG and things like that, are they affecting all of you?
I think it's a payment plan that's going to affect me.
Yeah. Because there's up to $100,000 in PAYG reimbursements.
Yeah, and that will help. We'll certainly be grabbing any break like that we can get, because that will make a difference. It's about, I guess, how long you can run for, and anything that helps us get a few extra weeks, might see us get to the other side.
Yeah.
Just waiting for it to be legislated, aren't we, Ben? Speaking to our accountant earlier, and it's all there. It's just has to get through. So fingers crossed they won't pull it now.
And then hopefully it's going to be automatic as well, so you won't have to do anything.
She said that we wouldn't have to. She said it would just all be automatic.
Have you got any advice for casual staff who have found themselves unemployed and how they should go about accessing some help?
Well, we've encouraged ours. We've written them letters to explain the situation and encourage them to get straight onto the Centrelink site. We've also let them know where we've heard of companies that are looking for employees to go there, and that's really tough. We have relocated one of our staff members to another company, and he's fantastic, and we don't want to lose him, but he might get there and get really comfortable and do a great job, and that may happen, but it's more important that he gets what work he can in the short term. So where we can, I don't know if redeploy is the right word, but where we can send them elsewhere, we certainly will. And then we're giving them whatever information we can as to where there might be some work, and certainly go to Centrelink and get what you can to help you get through it.
Yep.
Yeah, we've even had some of the front of house staff out picking grapes at the moment because we're in the thick of harvest, as well as putting them towards making them register, or recommending they register for the Central Economic Support Package, and then as job opportunities come up, communicating the opportunities with them and explaining how and where they could and should go, helping however we can. Yeah.
We were a little bit fortunate, Ben, in the fact that we were nearly at the end of our season, and we do structure our staff accordingly. And there were some that, had moved back to Melbourne that weren't looking for work. So, I mean, it's still going to affect them. There's no problems, but it seemed to be a little bit less because it was the end of the season. I'm a bit with Ty. If it had been the middle of the season, they would have been a lot worse off. But, I mean, the nice part for me is I've had a lot of staff checking in on Hugh and I, which has been pretty incredible. The text we've got from the staff it just does. I take on the world. I took on all our clients. I took on the staff. It's been a pretty emotional week, but when you get those sort of things back, that helps to get through what we're going through.
So we've talked about the stimulus that's available and whether that's going to save your business, but it's certainly helpful. We've talked about staffing as both a cost and an obligation. What other costs can you recommend that you can look at across your business during this time, reducing?
A lot of the online, things, I mean, apart from the immediate cancellations, if and when it's shut down, like the, utility things like, gas, sanitary bins, linen, etc., fruit and veggies, so all those things. We've been able to suspend a lot of the online things, like, and everyone, there's a lot of benevolence out there, things like, wedding sites and platforms. What else? The booking, Dimmy, it's now called The Fork, those things have suspended all fees. So everyone, there is a lot of support out there, which is gratefully received.
We were able to negotiate with Deputy, our staffing platform, and they came to the fore, and instead of just stopping it where you lose all your information, they have just suspended payments for us. So that was big for us.
Yeah.
So we had our till system, Vectron. They approached me last week, and they're free of charge. They're going to give me an app that people will be able to order online at home. It's normally thousands of dollars, but they said, look, we just want you guys to succeed. So they're doing that for quite a few people across Melbourne as well, which is great. They're as much a part of this industry as we are, and they don't want to see us fall. So which is good.
Yep.
We had the beer supplier contact us, which we were very grateful for, because the kegs go off at a certain time. So all untapped kegs have been returned and credited, which again is a help. Just reduce that stock, keep it fresh.
Same thing happened for us, Gillian. Same thing.
Yep, same.
You can do a post mix as well. CCA have just said any untapped bags of post mix they'll take back.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Hadn't got onto that one yet.
Look, if things do slow down, and we don't know how the stages are going to work from this point, but are there advantages in having more time to think about your business? You all operate busy lives and busy businesses, and this might be a moment to sit down and say, well, what are we doing well, and what can we do better to think about coming out the other side? Would that be fair, Lyndsay?
Yeah, I think there's definitely going to be a time for reflection once the shock and dust settles. Yeah, for sure. And then it'll be a case of what are we stepping into at the other end? I mean, I think we'll be facing a different frontier than we've left. I think all patrons, there'll be consumers coming out everywhere will be a lot more wary in their mindset. I think, some things will be here to stay, which are good, like, the manic sanitisation, perhaps spacing in restaurants, etc. But I think, yeah, for sure, at the moment we're in survival mode. Once the dust settles, then yes, reflection, regrouping, at the same time trying to keep connection between all our team. Which we've done, by the way. We've set up a Facebook private group called It Doesn't Have to Totally Suck. And we're encouraging, we've just, it's great so far. It went live last night and already there's 50 people, 50 team members on it, posting, there's a lot of humour going out there, but also posting things about what they're doing. Quite a few are mums and they're homeschooling. All that sort of thing. So that's a good way to sort of reduce the isolation and keep connection, I hope.
Yeah. And Deb, are you hoping to find some more time to think about your business?
Absolutely. I think we've probably, I'm a positive person. This is not many positives in any of this, but I think the positive is some time to be a little more strategic and certainly have a good look at setting up for what I do perceive will be a challenge when we come back, particularly in the events industry. There'll be people that have postponed who will need to, and it's going to be for us making sure we set the team back up to the correct. There's no point coming back and working 90 hours a week, every day of the week, just to say, oh God, we're busy again, because that's not how we've worked for the last, it's been about work-life balance. It's been about, so what are we actually going to, how will we strategize? Because already with everything that's going on, there's weeks in March next year now, because we already had our forward bookings and now people are a little bit, they think, oh, by March next year we should be right. So we're having to really think about that. So there's quite a little bit of strategy about that. So to actually take a little bit of time, I did say to the team, let's just take a breath over this weekend. Let's just take a breath. This is the first weekend we actually won't physically be here, and let's come back next week and start to strategize and start to think about what we have that plan. So yes, for us, always said it'd be lovely if we had 2 weeks without clients. I didn't say 6 months.
And Gillian, I suppose that applies to you. Workforce planning for the inevitable emergence after this would be really important for the Pier running such large events.
Yeah, look, it's going to be. That's what I said. We're thrilled we can get some work for people somewhere else, but gosh, we hope they come back, because we've got the best team we've ever had. The date is going to be tricky, as Deb said, fitting everybody in with a schedule that's already reasonably well booked. And so that'll be, a bit more Tetris or whatever we do. But that's sort of the nature of hospitality, is you do what doesn't really look possible, but somehow you make it work. For me, it's, I guess, I'm thinking, all right, when are we going to get an indication when this comes back on? Because that's when we have to get serious about building our team back up. We have to retrain. We had some casuals that haven't done a lot of work, and so they're going to have to be sort of brought back up to speed again and get everyone back in the groove and the whole place dusted off and oiled and ready to go. So there'll be a bit of work in getting everything back up to full speed and getting everyone back on board. And there is a bit of a disconnection staying at home, much and all, as I have to admit, I'm loving the traffic at the moment. But it is going to be a bit of a job getting everybody back online and their heads back in the game and ready to fire when that time comes. So I don't know if we're going to get a month's warning or if there's just going to be a switch flicked or whatever, but we've got to plan to be ready for that when it comes. I get some indication, but I could be very wrong on that.
Mm-hmm. It's a very good question. Will there be a flick switched and everyone's back to work and dealing with a lot of bookings who all want them done sort of yesterday, or and do you get back to revenue levels almost immediately, or is there a slower burn? It's hard to crystal ball that one, I think.
I would expect it to take a little bit of time for people to get the confidence to be back out again. So I don't think that'll take a long time, but I expect that, again, I could be really wrong, and our first opening night might be ridiculously busy, but I expect it'll just take a little bit of time for everyone to sort of regroup and fall back into some similar habits.
And I think it might have been Deb earlier, or perhaps Lyndsay, that talked about some of the ways may even change the way we conduct businesses in hospitality, including the distancing and the cleaning. Is there any other ways that in the long run you can see this changing your industry?
I think cash is gone. I think now everybody's the tap and go. It's sort of that will just follow on, and I think our cash will be almost cashless. I don't think we'll have much. It was always, we probably only did about 25% cash now in our cafe, but I think that will just go. There'll be no cash at all.
Yeah.
The other concern to getting back on our feet too is this is a big economic hit. Will there be money there to plan events and go out for dinner and, cocktails at the bar? So I might see a slower start as well, because we might have to rebuild the economy to be able to get back to that. So there's a lot of unknowns.
It'll probably depend on how much food people have stockpiled as well. If you've got a freezer full of meat, you're not exactly just going to go out and so.
I think people will get sick of their own cooking pretty quickly.
I think there'll be
a
reasonable amount of celebration when people can meet up again. I think that will be, and of course it will depend on to what level we can stop going to the Italies and that if we don't get to that stage. But I think, as you say, if we do go that far, it'll take people longer, like Gillian said, to have confidence to be out again. They'll be scared.
Do you think they'll take a bit of a look at venue limits?
No. Hadn't even thought about that, Ben. That's something that hadn't come into my head yet.
No.
Not being something I don't think that, we know our limits. We've got our licensing that we have to manage. It's rare for a client to ever ask that. Whether this will make a difference, I'm not sure, but I don't see that as being a concern. We have to work to our limits, so it's not like they're not disclosed. So I can't see that really, unless of course if the government changes limits, then that's going to have an impact on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. We've actually finished off our 30 minutes, and we probably could have talked for another hour or two on this. And thank you so much for your time. I'll just go through and introduce you all again so that everyone knows who we're grateful for. Gillian Costa from the Pier. Thank you, Gillian.
Thanks. Thank you.
Ty Simmons from Driftwood Café and the President of the Ocean Grove Traders Association. Thank you, Ty.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Cam O'Keefe from Westend, formerly Eureka Hotel. Thank you, Cam.
You're welcome, Ben. Thanks for having us all.
Deb Nash from Truffleduck.
Thanks, Ben. Nice to talk with everybody. Just nice to actually get out of your bubble for a minute.
And Mark Butcher from Pier and Scoobs. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, and good chatting to you all.
And thank you, Lyndsay Sharp from the Sharp Group. Thank you all so much. This will be available tomorrow via our Facebook if you want to share it with any of your suppliers or staff and colleagues. we really appreciate your support and thank you for being part of our second webinar.
Thanks, Ben.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
everyone.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.